Now we will do important questions of this course. First question before us is, what is cell theory? The credit for developing the cell theory is usually given to two scientists. The name of scientists are Swan and Schleiden. While Virchow contributed to the cell theory, he is not as credited for his stuff towards it. What are the main components of the cell theory? The three basic main components of the cell theory are: all living organisms are composed of one or more cells. The cell is the basic unit of life in all living organisms, and all cells arise from pre-existing cells. Now the question number 2 before us is, what is cell made up of? What is the structural organization of a cell? Or what are the three important features in almost every cell? So the cell has special components known as organelles. There are different components in the cell. If we study a cell under a microscope, we would come across three features in almost every cell. First is plasma membrane, which is the outer covering of the cell. Second feature is nucleus, and the third is the liquid or fluid material which is present inside the cell, in which the different type of structures which are found inside the cell are present. All the activities inside the cell and interactions of the cell with its environment are possible due to these features. So you can see that this is the plasma membrane, this is the nucleus, and the fluid which is present throughout the cell is cytoplasm. These are the three features which are present in almost every cell. Now we will make the comparison between plant cells and animal cells. These are the pictures of the animal cell, and this is the picture of the plant cell. Animal cells are generally small in size. Their shape is or irregular, whereas plant cells are larger in size. Their shape is rectangular. You can see that the plant cells are rectangular, fixed shape. In the case of animal cells, cell wall is not there. This is the plasma membrane, which is the outer covering. Whereas in the case of plant cells, this is the plasma membrane or the cell membrane which is on the inner side. Whereas on the outside, there is cell wall, which is the outermost covering of the cell. In the case of animal cells, chloroplasts are not there, whereas as the plants are usually involved in photosynthesis, so the plant cells have chloroplasts. Lysosomes are present in the case of animal cells. These are the lysosomes. Whereas lysosomes are not present in the case of plant cells. An animal cell can often change its shape, whereas plant cells cannot change its shape. In the case of animal cells, no or small vacuoles are present, whereas in the case of cells, a mature plant cell contains a large central vacuole. This is the vacuole, large central vacuole. Now we will find out the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. In the case of prokaryotic cells, the size is generally small, whereas eukaryotic cells are generally large in size. Prokaryotic cells are mostly unicellular, that is single-celled organisms, whereas eukaryotic cells are unicellular as well as multicellular. Eukaryotic cells are a primitive type of cell, whereas eukaryotic cells are an advanced cell evolved from prokaryotic cell. In the case of prokaryotic cells, nuclear region is poorly defined due to the absence of nuclear membrane and known as nucleoid. It means that proper nucleus is not present, as the outer covering, which is known as nuclear membrane, is not present in the case of prokaryotic cells, whereas in the case of eukaryotic cells, well developed nuclear region is present, which is surrounded by a nuclear membrane. In the case of prokaryotic cells, membrane bound cell organelles are absent, whereas in the case of eukaryotic cells, membrane bound cell organelles such as mitochondria, cytoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus are present. Next, in the case of prokaryotic cells, ribosomes are of 70S type, whereas in the case of eukaryotic cells, ribosomes are of 80S type. Prokaryotic cells are simple in structure, whereas eukaryotic cells are more complex in structure. The number of chromosomes in the case of prokaryotic cells are single, whereas in case of eukaryotic cells, the number of chromosomes are more than 1. In the case of prokaryotic cells, DNA nature is circular, whereas in the case of eukaryotic cells, DNA nature is linear. Prokaryotic cells are found in the case of bacteria, blue-green algae, mycoplasma, whereas eukaryotic cells are found in the case of plants, animals, and fungi. This point is also to be noted. On the basis of nucleus, cells are of two types: prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. You can see here that this is the nucleate. Well-developed nuclear region is not present, whereas in the case of eukaryotes, well-developed nucleus is present. This is the nucleus. Membrane-bound nucleus. This is the. Now, what would happen to the life cycle of a cell if there was no Golgi apparatus? This is the Golgi apparatus. Golgi apparatus is also known as Golgi complex, Golgi body, or simply the Golgi. What is the function of the Golgi body? Golgi apparatus performs the function of modification, packaging, transport of proteins and lipids, which are sent to different parts of the cell and or outside the cell. If the Golgi apparatus is not there, then the packaging and transport of material to different parts in the cell or outside the cell will not happen. Other cells and the organs in the body could not function properly without the products that Golgi body normally sends, because the Golgi body is involved in sending different types of materials to different parts of the cell or outside the body. If transportation does not take place, so the other cells and the organs in the body would not be able to perform their functions properly. If the Golgi body does not send them the products, if the Golgi body is not there, then naturally it will not send the products which it used to send. Now, what would happen if the plasma membrane breaks down or ruptures? This is the plasma membrane. This is the covering which the cell has in the case of animal cell. Plant cells also do have plasma membrane, but the plant cells also have an outer covering outside the plasma membrane, which is known as cell wall, but the cell wall is not present in the case of animal cells. So now we come to the main question. What happens if the plasma membrane ruptures, breaks down? Plasma membrane is also known as cell membrane or cytoplasmic membrane. Cytoplasm is present inside the plasma membrane. So the name of the outer covering is also given after that, cytoplasmic membrane. Plasma membrane surrounds the cytoplasm of the cell. Cytoplasm is present inside the whole of the cell, in which all these structures or the organelles are present. Plasma membrane separates the contents of the cell from the material outside the cell. This is the covering which keeps the outer material separate from the inside. If the plasma membrane ruptures or breaks down, there will be free movement. Suppose it breaks down, then there will be free movement of various substances in and out of the cell. Because it is broken, the many substances will come inside the cell and many substances will move out of the cell. The contents of the cell, that is these organelles which are present, vacuoles, mitochondria, nucleus, Golgi apparatus, all will leak out of the cell, and the cell will not be able to perform its basic functions. And such a cell which does not has its organelles to perform the various functions will ultimately die. Now, next question. Which organelle is known as the powerhouse of the cell? Answer is mitochondria are known as the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondria is present in the case of both plant cells and animal cells. They are small organelles which are present inside the cells. What is their function? They are involved in releasing energy from food. Mitochondria stores and releases energy in the form of ATP. ATP is also known as energy currency of the cell. Mitochondria move freely in the cytoplasm of the cell, which is the fluid present inside the cell. Mitochondria cannot survive outside the cell. Mitochondria use oxygen and glucose to make ATP, energy currency of the cell. Now, next question. Where do lipids and proteins constituting the cell membrane get synthesized? The answer is lipids are synthesized in the SER, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, whereas proteins are synthesized in the RER, rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now, this is the normal question which we have been reading for quite a long time, and that pertains to amoeba. How does amoeba obtains its food? Amoeba is a single-celled microscopic organism which is found in pond water. It changes its shape and position constantly. It takes its food by extending like structures. You can see here that these are the arm-like structures which it has extended from any part of the body. It can extend arm-like structures from any part of the body. Pseudopodia means false feet. You can see here that this is the amoeba and there is some food particle which amoeba has seen, and it will extend its false arms, that is pseudopodia, and it will capture the same. Food vacuole will be formed. Ultimately, the amoeba will digest the same. The food trapped is gradually digested and absorbed. Amoebas eat algae, bacteria, and plant cells, etc. Phagocytosis is also known as cell eating. Phagocytosis is the process by which a cell uses its plasma membrane to engulf a large particle. Outer covering, this outer covering is the plasma membrane. Cell uses this plasma membrane to engulf the large particle. Small particles may be absorbed by the plasma membrane of the amoeba itself, whereas in the case of large particle, the amoeba has to extend its false feet. Now, what is the process of osmosis? Osmosis is a process which takes place in liquids. It is a type of diffusion, the spontaneous net movement of water or solvent through a selectively permeable membrane from a region of high water concentration to a region of low water concentration till the equilibrium is reached is called osmosis. Osmosis is a passive transport because it does not require energy to be applied. Example of osmosis in our daily life is plant cells soaking up water through roots. Now, next question, how does the movement of substances takes place into the cell? How do substances move out of the cell, or why diffusion is important? The movement of the substance which may be liquid, solid or gas, from a region of its higher concentration to a region of its lower concentration is called diffusion. Carbon dioxide or oxygen moves in and out of the cell by the process of diffusion. So diffusion plays an important role in the exchange of gases and water between the cells as well as the cell and its external environment. Now next question, which type of cell division is required for growth and repair of body, and which type of cell division is involved in formation of gametes? There are two types of cell division. First is mitosis, another is meiosis. Mitosis is the type of cell division which is involved in growth and repair of the body, whereas another cell division is known as meiosis is this type of cell division which results in the formation of gametes. Next question, question 13. What is the meaning of ATP? ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. It is a molecule which is found in the cells of living organisms. ATP is also known as currency of the cell. Mitochondria is the cell organelle which produces energy in the form of ATP molecules. Mitochondria supplies packs of energy in the form of packets of ATP. Whenever energy is required, the cell breaks down the ATP packet, which is a chemical reaction. In this reaction, energy is released. So the body of the organism uses this energy stored in the ATP for making new chemical compounds as well as for mechanical work. If you like our video, please like, share and subscribe our channel. Thank you.